Hey guys, so today I want to talk to you about my Daniel Defense DDM4 V9. I bought this rifle about 4 years ago and it's seen many different configurations. This is probably the last of it. I've updated this quite a few times and I'm pretty satisfied with where it is now. My main point in this video is to explain, if I could only have one rifle, what would it be and why? So we will go in detail about everything I have put on here, why I went with certain things over others that I had before, and basically why I would choose this over a lot of other options that are on the market. If you guys have seen my other videos, you know I have not one but two 300 Blackout shorter ARs. 300 Blackout is a really awesome caliber. It has a great purpose. Mostly that is for something that is a short barrel and something that can be suppressed. But when it comes to terminal ballistics, the 5.56 is definitely king until you get into like your 308s and your 6.5 Creedmoor. So for me personally, if I could only have one, I think something like this setup here is going to be a little bit more versatile. Might be a little bit heavier, especially the way I have this set up. Might be a little bit more cumbersome, but I think it's an easier entry point for someone who's looking for what their first AR could be. Now let's talk about why. The easiest example is this here. This is a 16-inch. And those of you may know, 16-inch, anything shorter than that, other than if you're doing a pistol variant, you have to get a tax stamp. Now, for me, that was 6 to 8 months, long wait. I know people who've waited longer. Not sure what the current time is, but that's one hurdle a lot of people don't want to go down. Another reason 16-inch is a great length is because when you're talking about terminal ballistics, the travel time down that barrel and the powder burn is what is going to give you the velocity, which basically determines how potent your ammunition is. So having something that's a full length compared to like a 10.5, you're going to see a much greater effect. I've watched countless videos where they do the gel ballistic shots, and if you haven't seen those before, I definitely encourage it. It will kind of change your perspective on what calibers you may think are effective and what are not. So I do want to say, while we will talk about this specific rifle, by no means am I going to say this is the rifle you have to get. I did a lot of research before purchasing this rifle 4 years ago. It's how I landed on this brand. I've done a lot of research in everything that I put on here, and I'm not gonna lie, it ended up costing quite a bit of money, and that is definitely not what I encourage others. What I would encourage others to do is find something that they can actually use. Find something that's within your budget that will allow you to actually accessorize it and train. I have no problem admitting, when I first got this rifle was so far outside of my budget that I had just iron sights for a while. It probably was at least 6 months before I bought my first red dot and then my first cheap magnifier. You may have seen my Scorpion videos where I kind of threw all that stuff on there. Like, I was running budget everything just to kind of change it up, try different setups really, because irons, you know, they get boring after a while. And then it wasn't until about a year ago I decided to go with the VCOG here, because personally, if I'm gonna have something that has capabilities to reach out and touch something, a good optic is gonna get you there. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with running a red dot and a magnifier. Obviously, I believe in that too. But for something like this specific setup, I preferred an LPVO. Hence also why I have the bipod on there, because it's definitely set up as what you may have seen called a a recce build. I swear, since I started watching different channels on YouTube, this specific style of build, I've heard at least 4 or 5 different names. But for me personally, the way I have it set up, I'll call it the jack of all trades. It's definitely not a master of any, but if you were to only have one, I think it definitely does pretty well in a lot of categories. So let's take the time. I'm going to set this up so that you can kind of see how I have this one set up right now. Go over specifically what this rifle is, what makes this unique. But again, I'm not preaching you got to go out there and spend this money. But if you're looking to get your first AR, I would strongly suggest starting with a 16-inch 5.56 and getting stuff that is budget friendly so that you can actually go out and practice with it, train with it, get used to it, and then from there slowly get more niche-like items like a truck gun, which future video coming up about that because I know that is a hot topic right now. So let me set this up and we'll get into the rest of it. All right, guys, so let's talk a little bit about what makes the Daniel Defense M4 V9 special. This here, the overall length before adding the suppressor comes in around 36 inches, depending on where you have your buttstock. The barrel, as we said, is 16 inches. It is chrome lined with a 1-in-7 twist, and the gas system is a mid-length direct impingement. Now, as I have this set up, you'll see in the front, that is a Surefire SOCOM 5.56 RC3. I happened to get lucky when I was looking for suppressors. It was the only one they had in stock. Yes, I understand it costs a lot more than the rest. But the reason I liked that one specifically was because it does reduce the back pressure. The one thing that I've heard everywhere is to keep a gun that is direct impingement running longer, you want reduced back pressure. It lets it run a little bit cleaner. It's less gas to the shooter's face. I was considering the Huxworks for a while. I could not find that in stock. I happened to find this one, and that was where I went. Mounted to the rifle, I am using the Surefire SOCOM 3-prong flash suppressor. The reason I'm using that one is I know when the RC3 came out, there was a lot of controversy saying that this suppressor was shooting fireballs. And after some research, it turns out that depending which flash hider you use affected the way the gases flowed through this can. Most often it was the war comp that was creating those fireballs. So Surefire has suggested you either use the 3 or 4-prong flash hider, not the flash hider, not the war comp, if you're going to run the RC3. Behind that, you'll see I do have the Surefire M650 dual fuel Pro Turbo. To the best of my knowledge, that is the brightest light that they sell. That is not infrared. So that is coming in at 1,000 candela. I think that my notes are wrong. I think it was more like 10,000 or 100,000 candela. I'll double check that and get back to you guys. And 700 lumens. So yeah, that definitely has to be 100,000 candela. I wrote that down wrong. I apologize. I have that activated by a Scout Light remote switch that is a combination of a pressure pad as well as an on-off switch up top. And underneath you will see I do have the Magpul bipod. In the front and back I do have the Magpul flip up sights just to have backup irons. God forbid something were to happen to the optic here, but it being a VCOG, I'd be really shocked because I've heard some incredible things about it. Speaking about this specific VCOG, this is their 1-in-8 by 28. It is mounted on their LaRue Tactical LT799 quick release mount. So I know I've seen people argue before, why would you have backup irons if you don't have a quick way to lose your optic up top? And that there solves that. And I don't have it in the video here, but I do run a sling with this. It is the Ragnarok Concepts Slingster. There is one other thing I would like to mention that at some point I think I will add a red dot. I don't think they actually sell a mount that goes on top of here, but I do think I could get, you know, an RMR at a 45. I think that could also make this a little bit more versatile, though I will say the 1X on this is phenomenal. I mean, as far as all of the optics I've ever used, the reticle on this VCOG, hands down, is my favorite. It is the glass on this is just so clear, and the illumination is, for me, perfect. Now, I will say outside in the sun, it's not the brightest, but for every other scenario, this has worked perfectly for me. As far as future plans with this rifle, there is a range nearby that I hear has quite a long distance. I think it's something like 770 yards that you can take it out to, and that's exactly what I plan on doing with this. If you guys are wondering what kind of zero I have set for this, I was running a 100-yard battle zero, but I think I'm actually going to change this up to a 36-yard. If you guys have not looked into different battle zeros, I strongly encourage it. It will teach you a lot about where your holdovers are, what would work best. From everything I've seen, the 36/300, depending on, you know, barrel length, type of ammunition, that seems to be the most effective. But it's definitely something I plan on personally testing out soon. I'll get some video for you guys and do a follow-up video of that. But yeah, that's it. I will say in the 4 years I've shot this gun a lot. Never had any issues with it. The reason I initially sought out a Daniel Defense, I know they are more expensive, and I know there had been some controversy with them, but at the time of buying this rifle, everyone I talked to had nothing but good things to say about Daniel Defense in general. Why I went with a V9 versus the more common V7, I'm not gonna lie, I've always loved the quad mounts. The quad rail for the mounting. To me, it's a little bit more robust. Yes, it's heavier, but personally, the two guns I've always loved were the Mark 12 and Mark 18, which both have quad rails. And this right here kind of seemed to be the perfect in-between, right? You don't have that full 18, which makes it even more cumbersome, and you're not running a little shorty. So I like this one a lot. Although I know most videos out there, you'll see they talk about the V7. It seems to be a much more popular variant for them. I know they come in a lot more colors as well. But again, my biggest point for this is you don't have to buy this rifle. But if you wanted a good do-all rifle, a 16-inch 5.56, you can get into the rifle for under $1,000. You can get into optics, same price point. Yeah, I mean, it can obviously get way expensive. You're talking, this one particular, I only bought it because I found a phenomenal deal on it. If I did not see that deal, I probably would not have gotten this optic. I would have gotten something a little bit less expensive. But there's a ton of great options out there. So don't wait, especially, you know, here we are, end of September 2024. All this talk about them wanting to take our guns, and God forbid that actually happens. So now's the time to buy, right? Go out there, get something, start training, use your rights, protect yourself, protect your family, be prepared. Thanks, guys. Take it easy.